So here's where I talked about, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and hit 1992 first, and since we're in that era right now. But I'm going to hit with Bride and Snakes in the Playground. That was a Christian metal album.
Yep.
Dale Thompson on lead vocalist, and just the guitar work on there. Again, this was one of those bands that kind of caught a lot of people by surprise with this album. Not too many people were expecting the musicality, the songwriting, the riffage, the hooks. It was just kind of like, wow, what is this? I remember you couldn't get into a car going to any kind of youth event with a church group. That this wasn't just blaring on a cassette, you know, for the longest time, for years. I mean, this was like everybody went back to this one. Scarecrow Messiah followed this up. Wasn't as good. It was kind of like Snakes in the Playground Part 2, but it never really hit the way Snakes in the Playground did. And I mean, there was, you know, Rattlesnake and just some other songs on there. Some Things Never Change, where the hooks on it was just like, wow, what is this all about? And the lead guitar was just fantastic. And it harkened back to another album, and I'll mention, that'll be my final album I'll mention here, but it harkened back to style-wise to another band, another album that was just like, this is kind of stripped down metal, this is straightforward hard rock, heavy metal, and it was fantastic. It was different from what was starting to happen with the grunge stuff, as Christian artists were trying to change or were just falling off record labels. Record labels were dropping bands left and right as this new emerging style came out, and they were trying to find these new styles, and they dropped this album, and I really think it saved Bride from being dropped earlier, much like Stripe was going to be dropped from record labels even if they had come out as they do. I don't think they would have been able to hold out with the emergence of grunge that was coming out. No, no worries. Yeah, so I mean, it was just, you know, Bride, and, you know, that album really kind of saved it. I mean, there was a lot of, you know, Christian labels that were dropping off and, you know, bands off at that time, and they came out with this album, kind of blew everybody away, and I think they even really set the bar for the rest of the bands, and none of them really reached what Bride had come out with. You know, they tried some hooks, they tried some riffage that Bride did, and they never really captured it, and Bride did. They really just came out with this killer album. But I think that was also Bride's peak album as well. You know, they never really were able to successfully move on from there. Dale was saying, you know, and I've talked with Dale about it before, I said he's done his best stuff later on. I think every artist says that. But this was, for them, I think their peak, at least in my opinion. You know, it was something different. You know, but, you know, fantastic album.
He's got to be one of the busiest men in rock, isn't he, Dale Thompson? I mean, they've got a new album out as well, haven't they? Bride.
Yeah, he's done a couple of different stuff. Besides Bride, he's done Nog or No Other God. He's done another one. He kind of like went gun for hire a couple of years back and said, hey, if you've got some stuff musically, you want some vocals and some lyrics, send it my way. I'll throw my vocals and lyrics on it. And he's come out with some great stuff. I mean, lyrically and vocally, some good stuff out there. I don't know, for me, if it's, you know, my personal taste or style, at least where I'm at right now, but some really good musical stuff. I don't know if you've heard the Nog stuff, if you know, had a chance to sit down and listen to it, but there's some good, really good stuff on there.
No, good. Excellent, mate. Really good. Cool. Right, okay, so my next one, yeah? 2007. So I've gone from 1992 to 2007. So you can see, you know, there wasn't a lot going on, but I've gone to a band called Alter Bridge. I love it. Oh man. So I've chosen Blackbird. So it's their second album. You like a bit of Alter Bridge then? So this is the band. I've probably seen this band more times than any other band. I think I've seen them I saw them on the Blackbird tour, and I've seen them every time they've come over to England. I've seen them at Download. I've seen Miles Kennedy twice on his solo stuff. I mean, what a talented band. Mark Tremonti, one of the best guitarists out there, underrated, obviously. Miles Kennedy's voice is amazing, although I think he's lost. I mean, the guy's over 50 now, I think. So, I mean, but I think I don't think it's done him any favours singing with Slash. I don't like the Slash stuff. I think he's developed this sort of Axl Rose whine, you know, the whine that Axl Rose does. I think he's got a little bit of that in his voice now. He doesn't need to do that. He's got such a good voice. But I mean, they made their first 4 albums, Alter Bridge, are just classics. You know, absolutely amazing. The last couple have been okay, but not, you know, on par with the first 4. But I still think they're a great band. I'll come and see them every time they come over here. And haven't really hit it big in America, obviously. They're bigger over in Europe than they are in America.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't hear a lot of talks about them. I was out doing some work out in the Philippines, and I was able to introduce Alter Bridge to a bunch of the kids out there and stuff. They absolutely loved it. Gave away my CDs of Alter Bridge out there to a bunch of the kids out there that just absolutely love, you know, metal music and stuff as well. And, you know, phenomenal band. I mean, oh my gosh. You know, I've got a Spotify list that's, you know, Creed, it's Tremonti solo stuff, and it's Alter Bridge, and it's just, you know, some fantastic just metal from start to finish. Some of the ones I've taken, you know, off of my list just so I can stay in a you know, complete metal zone and stuff, take off some of the ballads every once in a while, just so I want to just rock out from start to finish. But, you know, Miles Kennedy's voice, I mean, yeah, you're right. You look at it. Yeah, it's funny. I actually like what Miles Kennedy was able to do with the Guns N' Roses stuff with Slash. Yeah. I've seen that live, and I think he's a better Axl Rose than Axl Rose is now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, Axl Rose, his voice has fallen off. It's not there. And I think, you know, Miles Kennedy does a better Axl Rose from like 1987's Appetite for Destruction stuff than Axl Rose is able to do now. Axl just doesn't have it anymore. As sad as that is. I mean, fantastic frontman, fantastic singer, but he's just not able to do it. But you're right. I think in some of the newer Alter Bridge stuff, he's picked up some bad habits, you know, as like you were saying, you know, the way that he's stylizing his voice and singing, where it hints at Axl Rose. And it's like, no, you're Miles Kennedy. Don't be Axl Rose on the Alter Bridge stuff. Save that for when you're doing Slash. You know, talking a versatile musician and singer, you know, kind of like Chris Cornell, where he was able to carry on from grunge into some of the metal stuff that he's even known to do, you know, every once in a while. Just a fantastic vocalist, fantastic range from both of those guys. That's just phenomenal stuff.
Amazing.
No, and it's fun. Go ahead.
No, I just say, I mean, I even think it's not so much the albums with Miles Kennedy. It's more when you see him live now. That's when it affects his voice. I mean, you can understand. I mean, no one can sing like they can on record. No, not hardly anyone. Especially, you know, he's like I said. I think he's 50 or 51 now. But that, I don't know, perhaps he's trying to preserve his voice. I don't know. But it's definitely different than what it was. If you listen to some of the live stuff way back when Alter Bridge first started out, I mean, it was so powerful. It was just like the record, you know, and obviously all that touring, all that work. That's why I don't want any of them to do stuff with other people. I don't mind the Tremonti stuff. You know, a guitarist ain't going to wear himself out, but you want the singer to just, you know, just don't do too much. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and that's one of the things that I know. When I saw Stryper back in the anniversary tour of To Hell with the Devil, you know, the first part of the set that they did was, you know, it was like all the classics, but he saved his voice. It was like he wasn't pushing the vocal range, because the second set was all the new stuff, and he was saving his voice for the new stuff. And at first I was kind of disappointed. He was going low when the song goes high, and I'm like, well, Has he lost his range? I know he can hit it because he hits it on the record, but why is he not hitting it here? And so I think some of the stuff that we're talking about here with like Miles Kennedy is he's just saving his voice, bringing out some other stuff down the road, but he wants to have more impact on a different song, so he's going to stylize it differently, sing it a little differently. Especially when we're talking, some of these guys are now doing hour-long sets. I mean, it was different back, I think like the 80s, they were doing like 30-minute sets, 40-minute sets at the most. Now we're wanting them to do hour-long sets. Yeah. You know, if we don't get an hour set out of a band, we're kind of like, what the heck?
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, a 30-minute set back in the 80s was common. You know, you had like 3-4 bands lined up. Even your headliner did a 40-minute set with an encore, you know, and then they were out.
Yeah.
So now they just, and then they're going from town to town. Now you're going to do an hour-long sets. So different style. But it's funny that you mentioned Guns N' Roses, because this is where I'm going to actually go back in time, and I'm going to hit 1987 with Appetite for Destruction, and talk about an album that was impactful and how it just kind of, you know, I think really changed a lot of the way heavy metal was going to be done, you know, because the glam stuff was big, the LA glam and stuff was big at this point in time, but then Guns N' Roses comes out with Appetite for Destruction, and they're wearing ripped jeans and flannel shirts and backwards hats, and, you know, they weren't doing the glam look. And their style was this, like, Rolling Stones meets heavy metal, and this attitude, this punk attitude that they brought into it as well. I don't know if there was really a punk style really in Appetite for Destruction as far as influence really so much. It was the attitude that was there. And that's what set these allowed for bands like Skid Row to later come in and not doing the glam look, but just do a straightforward metal look, you know, that we came to know. But the hooks, the riffs on Appetite for Destruction, that's an album I go to today, and I still just like, I get aggro about it. I want to run around the house, I want to drive 90 miles per hour down the freeway, you know, nighttime comes on, and I'm just like, I'm flying down the road, and I'm hoping that the cops in the area, you know, so I'm not going to get pulled over and get a ticket. But, you know, it's just a fantastic album from start to finish. Really, I mean, I don't think there was a bad song in the one from start to finish on that album. I think that album really took you on a musical journey that just from start to finish just grabbed you, and you just held on for the ride. Yeah,
man, it was. I loved it as well back then. I mean, I got in. It's really weird with that album. I got it the day it came out because I used to buy the Kerrang magazine, which is a useless magazine now, but back then it was quite good. And I remember reading about this band, and I got that album as soon as it came out. As soon as I could get to the record store, I got that album. And then it didn't hit big straight away. It was like a year later. I think they hit big after the album had been released. And I'd already had this album a year. And everyone was like, have you heard Guns N' Roses? Have you heard? And I was like, man, I've been listening to this band for like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Sweet Child of Mine like hit big, and everyone was talking about them. And I'd already been listening to Sweet Child of Mine for over a year, you know. But that was an amazing album. Sadly, they couldn't really hit the peaks again of that album. And, you know, if you look at how long the band, I mean, what was that, 1988, did you say? Appetite for Destruction?
87.
87. They haven't had a lot of albums out, have they, considering that was 1987? That's the only shame. You know, they haven't, you know, I mean, they had a long break when they wasn't together, obviously, but.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until like their double album did you start getting back into the, you know, that Red and Blue album that had like Civil War on it, Live and Let Die.
Use Your Illusion.
The Terminator. Yeah, Use Your Illusion's 1 and 2. You know, that was, you get into that album and then they start hinting back at the Appetite for Destruction stuff, but they never really fully captured it. Axl was trying, you know, so many different things, and, you know, they had attitude issues, problems, and, you know, they sadly never really, those two albums, Appetite for Destruction, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, sad thing about Use Your Illusion 1 or 2, you probably could have took the best songs off of the that double album and put it on one really good album, and they would have been better off.
I agree.
They would have been better off for it than putting out this double album that they did. Totally but, you know, the Appetite for Destruction, I'm one of those that 1985 is when I caught on to it. I was going to a Christian school at that in 84, 85. My parents said, okay, you know, this school's, you know, getting ready to close doors. We're going to put you over to this other school over here. And I went to a public school at that point. And I remember the kid's name. Wow, just keep in mind. This kid named Brett, this old redheaded kid. You know, he goes, man, you got to check out this album. And he breaks out the cassette, and we're checking out the album artwork, and everybody was now starting to check out this album. I remember kids drawing the school's logo, cross logo, and, you know, it was everywhere. And, yeah, I caught on to it just like every other at this time. I was in 7th grade at the time that album came out. And so just, it was just like, wow, what is this? And that Slash was playing. I mean, you talk about Sweet Child of Mine and, you know, the intro as well, you know, for Welcome to the Jungle. I mean, oh my gosh. And the videos that subsequently came out with that album was just fantastic. It was fantastic stuff. And it blew them up into a mega band. I mean, I remember hearing about when Lies came out and people were hijacking the bands that were carrying the albums to Tower Records. Somebody actually hijacked the band and stole all the albums because it was just filled with GNR, you know, and they stole it. And then there was riots for Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 to get into the LA Tower Records and stuff. I mean, there's massive lines and fights were breaking out to get these albums by this one band.
Mad, isn't it?
But when you think about it, Appetite for Destruction was it for them.
Yeah, yeah. It was good.
But it still stands the test of time. I personally think today, I don't think that, you know, you can listen to that album from start to finish and you can't go wrong with, you know, any of those songs. Rocket Queen, Night Train, you know, Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine. I mean, oh my gosh. And it was an influencer for me today, even as a musician. When I go to look at, you know, guitar tones, or I want to try to pull out an attitude or a sound, I think back to Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, yeah. Great choice, man. Absolutely great choice. That's your last one, isn't it? I think. Yeah,
that would be my last one, and then it could be like, you know, what's on your radar? What are you looking for?
Well, my last one. So, when we talk about impact, yeah, I got my last one. Sorry, mate. So when we talk about impact in our lives, so this is a real recent one. So it's actually Stryper's last release, Even the Devil Believes, and this has impacted my life massively because obviously I've started this channel, you know, and that album, I listened to that. I don't know if you checked out my videos. I did a reaction to every song off the album. So I didn't listen to the whole album. I listened to it one by one, and I listened to, I listened to it in a different way, this album. And I listen to music generally in a different way now because of this channel. And I actually got to interview Michael Sweet, you know, and that's a massive thing for me. I was so nervous, man, leading up to doing that interview. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, I knew 2 weeks before the interview that I was doing it. I was so nervous. I'd never spoken to anyone famous before. And some people in this world will say, who's Michael Sweet? But to me, obviously growing up in the 80s, loving Stryper music, it was a huge thing for me. And you know, he's done a lot for my channel. I've got 800 and something subscribers now to my channel, and probably half of those are down to Michael Sweet from sharing my videos and doing the interview with me. The album itself is probably my third favorite album of Stryper. So it's not my favorite album from Stryper. But man, what a strong album to bring out 37 years into your career. Absolutely, you know, from start to finish, not a weak song on the album. And it's done, not changed my life. That's a bit dramatic because I'm only doing a YouTube channel. But to get to speak to someone like Michael Sweet, or I look up to musically, and what a nice guy as well, you know, all because of Even the Devil Believes, because you know, obviously I got the interview with him because he's promoting his album. So that has had a massive impact on me, you know, last year, an absolutely massive impact on me, that album, you know, so musically and what it gave to me, you know, and the people I get to talk to, yourself now, do you know what I mean? And that's all through this channel. So yeah, I had to include it. Even the Devil Believes, you know, it's just an amazing album which has done some amazing things for me, you know. And during this lockdown business, you know, I would have gone mad not doing something like this. So it's done me a favour, and it's, you know, I started this channel out and I couldn't believe it when I got 50 subscribers. I was over the moon. You know, now I've got now I'm heading for 850, and that's just amazing for me. Even though it's not a 50,000, it's just every one of them. It just is amazing now. It's just where it's come, and I get to speak about metal, which is my favourite subject, with people like you. You know, it's done a lot for me, that album. So I had to include it in my my biggest impact of albums in my life. So that's it. That's my last one, mate.
No, for sure. I mean, this, I call it phase 3. I mean, you get into what Stryper's been doing, you know, in the last, you know, three, 4 albums, and it's just like, it's a whole nother level of stuff that's just going on with them, and it's fantastic. I mean, this recent album, my favorite, and I watched every video, and it was kind of like, I was anxious for your videos, actually. It was kind of funny. I was like, oh no, he's only doing one song once a week. I have to wait till next week to catch the response. I'm like, this is brutal. Because I enjoy your response. Your analysis, what you thought, I was right there with you. And that's why I continue to stay with the channel. I didn't just stay with it for, you know, just the Stryper stuff. You know, it's one of those things where, again, I love metal music, and you know, you talk about White Sister.
White Sister, yeah. White Sister.
So I'm gonna check out White Sister now. I've got a new band. You've introduced some new bands, you know, of stuff that I never would have thought maybe to at least give a listen to. You know, whether I'll listen to them, they'll be on my playlists, you know, off of my Spotify, or they'll just be something, you know, great stuff. You know, I'm gonna move on. But you know, that'll be something that, you know, I've kind of enjoyed about this channel and watching you and do what you do. I mean, it's one of those things where when I'm watching you, I get the same vibe as you're got your headphones on, you're listening to the music, and you're just kind of going, oh, wow, yeah, that was perfect. That was spot on. For me, probably my most favorite song on this most recent Stryper album is going to be Forgotten Rock and Roll. That song, just the lead guitar solo, when it first came on, I was just like, this is just classic metal. This is home. This is everything I like about heavy metal. This is, you know, a hint of glam in that lead guitar solo. It was just classic rock and roll, classic glam, classic metal, and I just absolutely loved the guitar solo. Loved the riffage, and you know, it's just it's a fun song, and I love fun songs. That's kind of like what I like about, you know, about the metal music that I typically listen to. Is it's got a fun vibe to it. I can either be aggro or I can have fun with it, you know. And Forgotten Rock and Roll, and again, yeah, this latest Stryper album, just phenomenal. Keep it up, guys. Stryper, Mike, you know, Oz, best wishes to you as you go through what you're going through. Our prayers are with you. Our thoughts are with you on that, and your wife and the rest of the band. We wish you well on that. But you know, we look forward to more music coming out from you guys. Definitely. That's for sure.
Definitely. All right, then, Mike. So we're going to move on to the honourable mentions. So I've got about 7. I'm just going to say the titles. That's all I'm going to do. I might say what sort, but these. I'll tell you what. How about I do mine first? You can do yours last. You can end it. How's that?
Yeah.
So these are just by name. So I've got, these are ones that I really wanted to include. So some of these went on the list, came off again. These are massive things for me. So Lynyrd Skynyrd, Pronounced, debut album. Love a bit of Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah.
A British band called Status Quo. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're like an institution, an institution of, they're like a rock and roll, heavy rock and roll band on the level, 1970s. To Hell with the Devil, Stryper, got that on there. I've got Metallica, Master of Puppets, amazing album. Rat, Out of the Cellar, and I could have actually put Invasion of Your Privacy on there as well, because that's an amazing album. I've got Van Halen 1984. I've got Van Halen 1984, and I've got Journey, Escape. So there you go.
Oh yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, that's my honourable mentions.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd have to say that, you know, if I was to put a non-metal album on this list for me, and it's inspired me so much in so many different ways, it's the Beatles' Revolver album. And so that would be like number one of cross-genre, musical styles and stuff that really impacted me. I mean, my band's named Revolver. I got Revolver, Inside Revolver Studios, where I talk about music gear, on my YouTube channel. So stuff like, that whole album has just really inspired me in so many different ways, impacted me in so many different ways. But then I get into stuff like Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, just one of those fun albums, Poison is another band. Their early stuff, is really good. Open Up and Say Ah, Look What the Cat Dragged In, some good stuff off of both of those albums.
Good-looking chicks.
Just fun metal.
Good-looking chicks.
What's that?
Good-looking chicks they were, weren't they?
Good-looking chicks again, yeah. Man, she's hot. But yeah, so stuff like that. There was one album that I really enjoyed, and they were one of those that came out right as the metal scene was ending, but it was Nelson. When Nelson came out with
After the Rain.
their album.
After the Rain.
Yeah, fantastic album, and some really good stuff on it. Now, it was more the pop side of metal, but there was some really good metal stuff on there. Some good vocal stacks, some good songs.
Yeah.
Just some really good stuff, and it was really largely overlooked because of where it was positioned in the music scene at that time.
Yeah.
Christian bands like Fear Not were fantastic, and Christovox I'd be exposed to later. Some great honorable mentions on both of those. So there's some fantastic stuff out there that, really it had impact on me musically, but, didn't quite set into where I was at the time. And most of them I found later on. You talk about Metallica, the Black Album. It's huge. That took Metallica from, this kind of speed / thrash into rock metal type stuff, whether they like that, label or not. But that's really what it did for them.
Yeah.
And it gave them a huge commercial success that brought others into the fold of their previous stuff. And I was one of those that I hadn't really paid attention to Metallica till the Black Album.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, wow. I was already into speed and thrash, but I hadn't really listened to Metallica's speed and thrash. And then Megadeth, was one of those as well, because of the Black Album, because of the other stuff they were applying Megadeth. And Hangar 18, oh my gosh, and Peace Sells, Who's Buying, so many fantastic songs that just mind-blowingly incredible as far as the musicianship on there, that was just miles ahead of anything that I was listening to at the time. But I wouldn't find even Megadeth or even like Anthrax till I was in the Marine Corps, and we'd be doing a chow hall duty, doing dishes, and here we are listening to Megadeth, Anthrax, and early Metallica stuff, while we're cranking out, dishes for 2,000, 3,000 people. Those are fun there.
Oh man, some good honorable mentions there. We could speak all day, but you're going to come on again. This ain't the end of
Michael Sweet. I did have a question for you.
Yeah, go on.
You mentioned Michael Sweet. Is there one in particular artist that you would say, as far as even whether it's a lead singer, whether it's a band, that just miles above anybody else, that didn't necessarily make it to your list? Is there one particular one that just stands out the most to you, that's had the most impact on your life this whole time?
Oh man, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. I don't know. It's like, I've been thinking about things like this, and I've been thinking about doing like a top singer, top guitarist sort of show, and I find it really hard. Even my top bands, I find it hard to name one band. Do you know what I mean? I always think Iron Maiden are my favourite band, but then when I sort of break it down, I don't know if they are. You know, they're probably not at the moment with the stuff they bring out at the moment. You know, and I don't know. I mean, I really look up to the late Ronnie James Dio. I know he was on my list because of Black Sabbath. You know, I just think I mean, even like I said on those later albums with Dio, where they're not known as good albums, but he can just. There's not many singers that can make an ordinary song sound great just because he sings on it. You know, I think Ronnie Dio and Jeff Tate in his prime, and I know they've both been on my list, are absolutely amazing. Steve Harris, bass guitarist of Iron Maiden, is pretty special, and he's songwriter, amazing songwriter. You know, there's I don't know. It's one of them ones where we could go. And after talking to Michael Sweet, and just look up to him as a guy to speak to as well. You know, and my missus watched that interview. It's one of the only videos she watched, and she didn't know what to think, because I said she didn't even know Stryper. I said, like, I'm interviewing a lead singer of Stryper. They're a Christian band, and she was like, didn't know what to expect. And after seeing the interview, she said, what an amazing guy he was, you know, to speak to. What an absolutely amazing person to speak to.
Yeah.
So I think I do look up to him more than I did before doing this channel, you know. So
yeah, no, definitely. I'm.
Go on. Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, that's okay. It's just, you know, I'm totally jealous that you got to speak with Mike. You know, it's one thing. You know, I don't know if you've had the chance to, when he's replied to you on Facebook or something like that in an actual text, and you go, oh wow, he read what I wrote, or you know, it's always cool when an artist actually responds in that way. Whether I was crossing swords with Oz Fox, you know, and I was like, oh wow, you know, Oz is responding, even though we're kind of having a little argument, you know, I'm arguing with Oz Fox, you know, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. You know, or I posted something one time about the band Stryper, and I had my information wrong. Mike jumped on it and corrected me, and I was like, cool. He's actually taking the time to read stuff and then respond. You know, there's so many artists out there, even with the advancement of social media, they don't take the time to do that. And that's what's cool about the guys from Stryper is, you know, they're not opposed to doing that. I mean, but there's another artist.
Oh, sorry, mate. Go ahead. I was saying, when I email Michael Sweet every couple of weeks, and just like on the new stuff that's happening, he emails me back straight away. And awesome. another artist who I'm hoping to interview soon, we had a really big, probably about a half-hour texting each other. That's Todd Latora from Queensryche. We have about 2 weeks ago. Like just texting him each other.
Oh, sweet.
On Messenger. I requested him like as a friend, and he's been texting me. It's just been amazing, you know, just speaking to Todd Latora, and I look up to him like, oh my God, you know, Todd Latora is amazing, isn't he? So, yeah.
Exactly. No, so there's one artist, and I'm going to be totally uncool about this. Actually, there's two artists. And one can't be without the other, but they're totally non-metal, non-rock. But they taught me about, both of these artists taught me about being a front man, about having fun doing the music, giving back to the fans, being involved with the fans. Don't separate yourself from the fans, especially when you're on stage. You know, try to find ways to include them in what you're doing. And I'm going to, you know, get some hate mail for this, I'm probably sure of. But country artist by the name of Chris Ledoux, he passed away not too long ago from cancer. But he taught Garth Brooks how to have fun on stage. Those two artists right there. I saw Chris Ledoux a number of times. He had a cast all the way up to his hip. He had broke his leg. And he had this shtick that he would do on stage where he would have a mechanical bull during this guitar solo. It was a killer guitar solo, and it would come rising up from the back side of the stage, and he would get on it because he was a professional, he was an actual cowboy type person, you know. He did rodeos before he started his career, and he had this mechanical bull rise up from the back of the stage, and he would strap in, and he would ride this mechanical bull during the guitar solo. And he got on with this cast up to his hip, you know, with his broken leg, and he still rode this mechanical bull like every other time I'd ever seen him before.
Brilliant.
And I chased his bus down to go see him. He even did a kiss stick on one guitar solo, where the smoke and the lights would come out from the humbuckers and stuff, and then sparks would shoot out the tip of the guitar solo. Which I saw this at a free show at a county fair one time with this guy, and I was blown away by what Chris Ledoux did. And then to find out how Chris Ledoux had influenced Garth Brooks. And Garth Brooks is one of those artists that, whether you like his music or not, if you watch him live, you have to appreciate that he's getting just as much as the fans are, because the fans are giving to him, he's giving back, and it's a relationship for him.
Yeah.
And he does this live show on Facebook, and he's interacting. He remembers people, you know. He's like, oh yeah, you were 20 rows back, you were holding this one particular sign, I remember that sign. Yeah. And it's just a phenomenal guy. He's one of those guys that, like Michael Sweet, you know, you want to sit down, you want to have a brew with, you want to just chat it up with, and get to know, you know. And Garth Brooks for me, and the late Chris Ledoux is one of those. Mike Sweet, you know, those three guys right there really taught me what it means to really be a musician, a singer, a songwriter, and how to enjoy the music that we love. You know, every one of those guys, from Chris Ledoux to Garth Brooks, love heavy metal. Garth Brooks is a big Kiss fan, and a number of other bands, you know, that he likes as well. So, I mean, there's elements of what they love and we love as well that we have some commonality. And it's not just music in general. There's a commonality of the metal music that, you know, we can appreciate together.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Oh, listen, mate, it's been great talking with you. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I want you to come on again. Yeah, that all right?
Yeah.
We could sort something else out for sure. So, any last words from you, mate, before we go?
No, man. Hey, from California, we say stay safe, stay healthy, wear that mask when you go out. You know, we hate it, but we got to do it. Let's keep our family safe, and look forward to a happy and healthy 2021, man.
Definitely. Cheers, man. And speak soon.
Killer music. Oh, real quick, I want to do an honorable mention real quick. I talked about this, not on the radar is what I wanted to talk about. So for me, on the radar, there's a band called Hypnostic. They're out of Orange County. This is one of these bands that have kind of come up through the 80s. They started off with a band called Licks Array. And Licks Array was just this fantastic glam metal, heavy metal type stuff. They were one of those bands that transitioned into the grunge with a band called Soul Tree. And they've got some new music coming out under this band called Hypnostic. They've got this cover version I told you about, Ain't No Sunshine. I don't know if you had the chance to check it out yet. The video on there is fantastic. It's a nice twist from the original, was it 60s version of Ain't No Sunshine, which is fantastic song to begin with. But to do a rock/metal version of it is it's spot on, just spot on. And their newest single, Real Truth, is just punches you in the throat and then just pummels the rest of it as you kind of go through. It's fantastic release. I'm looking forward to. I was talking to the lead singer, because I was asking him, I was like, dude, you got any more stuff coming out? He's all, they're hoping this year to have a full album out this year. So I'm looking forward to that. That's on my radar. You got anything on your radar?
I'm looking forward to the Todd the Tour album, man. That's the main thing at the moment. Yeah. Accept bringing out a new album in a couple of weeks. A load of stuff from Michael Sweet obviously coming out this year. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link. I'll leave a link to that video, Ain't No Sunshine, below this, so people can check that out as well. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, brother, good talking with you. Let's do this again soon.
Cheers, man. All right. Speak soon.
All right. Bye. Have a good one.